Hello, and welcome back to Cars of Glasgow. And today you join me inside the 2020 Audi A4 45 TFSI Black Edition. And if that was a mouthful, it was a mouthful to remember. And today we're going to be taking this Audi A4 on a Gallivant tour around the local area, just having a quick drive, let you guys give you a feel of what the Audi A4 is all about and what this particular model is like. So if you want to check out a full in-depth video I've done, please check my other video, as that's going to be a proper full in-depth video just to let you guys see what the car's about. Without further ado, let's crack on. So the 45 TFSI doesn't mean it's a 4.5 litre, it's just a part of the new nomenclature that Audi are using for their structure for models. So think 35 is like a low powered vehicle, if it's going to be electric, diesel, petrol, things like that. 45 kind of middle of the road, 55 typically would be where your 3 litres would be, and then 75 things like your Audi R8 kind of performance. So as I mentioned, 45 TFSI, 2 litre petrol, produces about 265 brake horsepower, which is pretty impressive. Sounds good too. All goes through the 7-speed Audi S-tronic gearbox, which is semi-automatic. Put the foot down, especially in dynamic mode, it's good to go. Being a Black Edition, we are riding on 19-inch alloy wheels, would you believe it? Which are huge, and they fill the wheels well, but it does mean the car is a little bit stiffer than you might like for daily use. You can feel probably bumps and lockdown fat shaking. Audi have done their best to dampen the cabin, and I vaguely remember reading an article when this generation came out that I think at 70 miles per hour it was actually quieter than the Bentley Bentayga that was out in 2017 at the same time, just with regards to decibel levels. That's pretty impressive. You don't really hear the 2 litre engine kind of come through the cabin at all unless you put the foot down. As I said, it is responsive. You can get low powered petrol engines with front wheel drive, and there's a whole new kind of range now. No longer is the SE. It kind of starts from the Technic, and then you get the Sport Trim, S-Line, Black Edition, which is this, which is an S-Line with a couple of goodies added on, and then the Vorsprung, which is the fully loaded one with, I think it's got adaptive dampers, you've got the sunroof, is probably the best way you can tip. And that's all singing, all dancing. This is, as mentioned, a 2 litre petrol, kind of in the middle of the range with regards to power and performance, but kind of high specs because it's got things like the Bang & Olufsen sound system, which incidentally sounds pretty good. We've got little tweeters up the front and the subwoofer in the back. We can tell this is the facelift model from the exterior by the headlights and the dual taillights. They've kind of got a slashed look design. Got a new bumper. So the Audi A4 is a compact executive saloon and estate and all-road car that competes with the BMW 3 Series, Mercedes-Benz C-Class and other cars of that class. It kind of stands out because it's synonymous with the Quattro, and Audi have done quite well over the last 20 years or so, putting Quattro into almost everything. There's various versions of the 4-wheel drive, but they're all Audi call it Quattro. Also that stands out is the fact that Audis are pretty well built. It's going to be hard to beat an Audi interior cabin. Everything's pretty solid, nothing really squeaks and rattles, unlike maybe something like a C-Class. Maybe the black gloss plastic that creaks and rattles. This is all very well built and solid and Germanic feeling. Technology in here is pretty incredible, from the 2 litre engine that produces 265 horsepower and 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds. There's oodles of torque and performance in this car. It's really impressive. Also, we've got good visibility out. Rear wing mirrors are decent. This particular car is fitted with cameras all round, so part of, again, the technology package. Plenty of gadgets to keep us occupied. The main interior upgrade they've added for the facelift is this huge touchscreen. So gone is the traditional MMI system with the scroll wheel. It's now touchscreen, which means you do get a little bit of extra storage in here, but also means So suspension on the road, pretty well sorted. We're riding on 19-inch alloy wheels of the Sports Edition, or of the Black Edition, which is very sporty. I do have it in dynamic mode, but with a touch of a button we can sync into auto, we can go into comfort and efficiency if you really wanted to maximise fuel economy. The quality of the cabin inside the car is very well built, and Audis do that really well. They've built a reputation for themselves to have very high built cabins. It's almost like the cabins for the cars are always a class above, so maybe like an A3 would feel like something like a 3 Series C class. This is like very well built, like very solid, very Germanic, and the quality of materials in this car is very high and very nice. Nice supple rail in the seats, nice rail in the steering wheel. It's just overall a gorgeous car to be in and feel. So that little bit of storage where the MMI used to be is ideal for things like calling. It's quite small, but it clears up this middle area. Everything has black gloss in here, which I worry is going to be scratched or ruined in a couple of years' time, but it does look good when it's factory fresh. The gear selector is a kind of throttle, it reminds me of, like an aircraft. Pretty big, preferably on top. Select down for drive, forward for reverse. In this particular car is fitted with a 360 camera, which is very high resolution. Stitches together pretty well, and you can choose if you want your front, your side, your rear, whatever you want. It's pretty crisp. I like the fact how Audi have decided to keep in some of the physical buttons and not went full touchscreen like the Audi A6 and Audi Q8. So your climate controls are rotary knob, left and right, turn hot and cold, quite simple, easy to explain. Tells you the temperature within the gauge itself, a bit like a JLR product. It is pretty nice and easy to use. I like them rolling around the ring, it's quite quality feeling. Heated seats, again, touch of a button, you're not hiding through systems to get that, so on a cold winter's day, get in, go, you'll really appreciate that. Avoiding the low sun there. Down below is kind of almost toggle inspired buttons again, but this time it's for things you don't really use too often, so that's quite good. So you've got drive select down here, which can go from your dynamic mode, efficiency, comfort, I'll leave in auto. Beside that is your auto defeat, and then you've got your traction control button, parking sensors, and you can turn the whole system off at a touch of a button. It's quite nice they've got all that kind of at a touch of a button down below again without having to dig through stuff. It's things like that you kind of realise is too many screens a good or a bad thing when you can deactivate and activate things at a touch of a button. The digital cockpit in this car is really impressive, and I think Audi do one of the best. At a touch of a button you can get 2 large gauges. It's set up with the map at the moment. It's really crisp, it's very configurable what you can do at a touch of a button in the steering wheel. Speaking of the steering wheel, get little paddles behind so you can pop it into sports mode and rattle through the gears. But if I put it into dynamic mode right now, you can feel that torque push you back into your seat. It's very addictive, this car. Handling wise, pretty good. I've got it dynamic at the moment and we're just around some suburban streets. It's well weighted. It is quite light, it's not as heavy as maybe a hydraulic setup from probably about 5-10 years ago now. But it is good, but hopefully you can see that from the camera. It picks up speed really well, sounds quite good, a bit like that E300 we drove recently. It sounds really good. Quality in the cabin, can't fault. Audi have done a great job making this car feel like the class above, very well built, solid, nothing squeaks and rattles when you're shaking it. Everything's like logically laid out and ergonomically designed. A couple of gripes is for a car that's about £50,000 aspect, it still has a manual adjustment for steering column and a manual adjustment for the seats. It'd be quite nice if Audi started throwing things like that in for that price point. But I can't fault the sound system, don't want to play it because of copyright, but the Bang & Olufsen sound system sounds really good and I would recommend you guys getting that. You can get a manual and an automatic, but most use this Audi S-tronic gearbox, which is a 7-speed, and with my time with it, it's pretty good. You can leave it in auto mode, just get out of my dynamic modes. It slushes around, but in gear 3 going 23 miles per hour, it's nice and soft, does the job. I haven't driven a manual one in a long time, but I can imagine you'd probably want an automatic just to be that kind of slush box and enjoy the luxury car feel that the Audi provides. In regards to fuel economy and CO2, it's got a claimed 187 grams per kilometre and 34 miles per gallon combined. Rear wheel driving, I'm seeing 28 today, so it's not too far off. But it's a quattro full drive car petrol, so you can't really expect too much with this kind of power. Sub 6 second 0 to 60 is pretty good. Boot space, we've got 480 litres in the boot, which is very compatible with the 3 Series and C-Class. Room in the rear for probably 2 adults. The child seats can go in the back. There is no netting behind the passenger or the driver's seat, which is a wee bit disappointing just because I quite like it when car companies give you a little bit of storage there just for your iPads and things like that. But it is very well built in the same quality plastics and metals and plastics that are used in the front are used in the back as well. So it is a pretty plush rear, and any adults, probably I'm 5'11", I fit back there fine, so any adults at my height or taller probably be okay. Smaller, you're going to be spot on. Cute little dog ravaging its owners there. So overall, what do I think of the Audi A4 45 TFSI Black Edition? Well, it's a luxurious prospect if you're looking for one, so congratulations if you are. It's a lovely, well sorted, well built car. Apart from the price, if you can afford it, it's relatively economical to run. You're all paying that high road tax when it's over £40,000 regardless if it's petrol or diesel. You may as well enjoy the smoothness of a 2 litre petrol engine and enjoy the quietness it provides, enjoy the thrills. And would you get sick of that, the performance it provides at a touch of a throttle input. It's got room for 4, it's got the quality badge which helps with residuals. Running costs aren't going to be too horrendous, especially over the first few years, especially if you're buying them, leasing it, things like that most people do these days. And having driven the C-Class in the 3 Series, it does ride as well. Like the C-Class is quite soft and squishy, even in the G line, it's a little bit firmer. But I'm trying to think how firm it is in comparison to the 3 Series because they're both well damped cars. I'd really to get in a twisted back road to really say, but if you're going for that, maybe the 3 Series, but everything else, this Audi is ticking a lot of boxes. So if you're watching this video, maybe you're thinking of buying one, I would definitely recommend going for Auto Box. It just makes life so much easier, and I couldn't imagine going for one without it really changing gears. It's not the kind of car I could really see you want to be changing your own gears. It might really take away from that luxury car experience. The quattro all-wheel drive system does make the car give you a little bit of that peace of mind in your head. So I just want to say thanks very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on the Audi A4 45 TFSI Quattro Black Edition. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to Cars of Glasgow below, as I appreciate every subscriber. Comment below if you've got any questions. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Cars of Glasgow. All that information will be below. And if there's any cars that you would like to see on the channel, maybe you have a cool car I could film, they're in the Glasgow or the West of Scotland, that would be great. Get in touch and let me know and we can sort something out. So, thanks for watching. Ciao.